All right, so one of the key roles of a security administrator or a system administrator truly is security. And as I indicated before, setting up all of your securities from scratch uh, and going through all the properties and privileges, and then having to go through all of the document templates and apply security to them is a pretty daunting task. So in order to facilitate that and to make this much more easier, at least in an attempt to give you a baseline setup, we have provided you with Alabama default security groups. That is not to say that a one size fits all offering is just that. It's a baseline. So it's a baseline for you to start with. In many cases, it will probably do everything you need it to do. There will be situations, I know, where some of the districts, maybe even the larger districts, have nuances and business rules that maybe are a little different. So in those particular cases, you would want to go in and maybe make some minor modifications to those default security groups, or even maybe create a new one. But the nice thing about having those defaults out there is that you do have a baseline, you do have a template, you have something to start with, and you can even copy one security group to another and then make adjustments. So it really is a beneficial way to make something that is a huge project, hopefully a little less daunting. In addition, we have something that is called PowerSchool SIS role integration. And PowerSchool SIS role integration is a method by which we control the membership in a security group by virtue of the security setups in PowerSchool SIS. So in other words, the setups are complete over in special programs. And of course, when a user is created or set up or assigned within his actual security setups over in PowerSchool SIS, that is relative to what he will be able to do when that person signs into special programs. So we're going to take a look at security in general. We're going to talk about take a deep dive into what those security groups look like. And then we are going to review the processes for what that really looks like in PowerSchool SIS, and then talk a little bit about audit logs and user sessions. All right, so the security area is under the administrative menu item. So we focused all morning on configuration. Now we're going to focus on the security area. And of course, within special programs, we have what is called role-based security. And by that, I mean that we set up security groups, and users who are part of that group all share the same properties and privileges. So it allows you to kind of create this uniform bucket that people are going to fit into, and they all are able to do the same thing based on the job that they have. So what does that look like over in special programs? So let's get logged in. All right, so we're looking at special programs, and let me make my screen a little smaller. There we go. All right. So logging in as the security administrator, moving over to the administration menu, I am going to click on security, and it is going to take me to my security area. Notice at the top, my focus is on staff security groups. There are also additional areas under security. As I talked about earlier, there is the capability to allow students and parents to actually be able to sign into special programs and work with specific documents. That is what we call the special programs kind of self-service portal. It is not anything that is being implemented in Alabama right now, so there is no security that is set up for that. We have an area for sessions and an area for audit log that we're going to talk about a bit later. As we look at the security, the first thing to know is these are our categories for security group defaults. And within each category, if I expand them, I actually have separate groups in each category. So you can see I have a special programs admin group, and then I have different categories for each one of the different modules or the special population groups within special programs. So if I were to pop over here and look at special education, you can see that I already have pre-configured a special education building administrator, a special education teacher, a special education viewer. You can see that we have added a related service provider, and notice this one says customer configured because we don't really know what it is that y'all want to do for that. So as I said, we're giving you a baseline, we're giving you options to refine it and modify it as you need it. So within each area, we have this very consistent structure of how we have set up our actual security. So we're going to do a deeper dive into all of those security groups here in a minute, but we're going to talk about first, what are the components of a security group? So of course you can see that we put them in categories. We created the security group. If you launch the security group, it takes you to the actual staff security group setup. So within staff security, there are three distinct components. There are the properties and privileges that determine what that group can do within the application, and the students and the staff and the data that they have access to. Okay. So within the properties and privileges for all of the functional areas of the program, we grant or make inaccessible certain pieces of functionality based on what that role might be doing within the software program. So that's the properties and privileges. It controls when you sign in, what do you see on your menu items? Can you see all of the students? Can you see only the students in your building? Can you see just the students that are in your caseload? Or do you just see the students that are on your class roster? That's all set up in properties and privileges. The second component are the document templates. So once we have a group created and we have assigned the properties and privilege based on the data you're allowed to see and the functionality that you have, then document templates are assigned to that group with this corresponding document template and section security rights about what that group can do within a document. Okay. You saw that right before lunch when we were over looking at the document templates. Okay. And you're going to see it again as you move into the security side, because you can actually create the you can actually access and create document template security from administration security. So you can actually do it in two different ways. So once you have your security group created and you have the properties and privileges assigned, and you've gone in and you've assigned document templates, then the third component is to add your members into the group. Now, adding members into a group is searching through your staff table, selecting a user, and adding it to a group. And so it's kind of on an individual basis kind of thing. I can multi-select a few people at a time, but it's essentially kind of an onerous, time-consuming process. And in order to make that more streamlined and easier for our customers, we have something that is called PowerSchool Role Integration. And what that allows us to do for our customers who use PowerSchool SIS, it allows them to set the security up as they're setting their security up for their users who are in PowerSchool SIS, it allows them to create roles on the PowerSchool SIS side and assign those roles to their users in PowerSchool SIS. And then we map those roles over to our groups in special programs. And what that means is that a user is set up in PowerSchool SIS, and when the user is assigned the roles and completely set up over there just in that one area, when that user signs in or accesses special programs, so first day of school, teacher goes to click on a student alert. It has a 504 alert on it. She goes to open that document. When she opens that document, she is actually accessing this program through single sign-on. How does it know what security to give her the first time that she does that? Well, it looks at her role assignment in PowerSchool SIS, okay? So essentially, we're controlling it on the PowerSchool SIS side and mapping it over, and that's why we call it PowerSchool SIS integration. So what does that mean for you? It means that, as you can see, we have properties and privileges that are set up. We have document templates that are set up in each of these default groups. And then your members get assigned to those groups the first time they log in to PowerSchool SIS to use any of the application. It grabs their membership and puts it in their membership role. Now, could you, as a security administrator, manage memberships over here? What if you didn't have a user that had a role over in PowerSchool SIS? Yes, of course you can. You can actually assign a user to a specific group over in the PowerSchool special program side as well. It starts with PowerSchool SIS, but of course you do have the ability to manage it on this side as well. All right, so that was kind of the big picture. And now let's focus on what it is that we set up here, because here's your default security groups. As I said, there is a group that is called the Special Programs Admin category. And within it, it has 3 separate security groups that are kind of at the top. So in other words, as I look at this organization, it is this Special Programs Admin category that has the most security rights. And that's why it's called an admin. So system administration, security administration, these are the folks that would have system administrative rights and the ability to even be able to impersonate and assume a system admin role. And we're going to talk about that because it's all, I know it can be a little bit confusing. But here we are. Let's see. All right. So I'm going to start here and then we'll jump over into the software. It is, when I take you actually into the software and we start to look at those properties and privileges, it can be a little daunting because there's a lot of data. And there's a lot of security groups and you kind of have to do a deep dive and thread into them. And so within this PowerPoint, there are matrices to give you an overview of really what is contained between these two systems. So in this special program system administration, security related groups, we have 3 security groups that we've created. We have one that is called District Administrator Special Education. That really is I want to say, in this particular case, I said, oh, that might be a special ed director. That might be some kind of a district technology coordinator. That could even be, student services that needs to see everybody. This is someone who has system-wide access, and they have access to all students in the system and all functionality to document templates, okay? In addition, they have some system administrative privileges, maybe not all, but they have some. And if they have the password, they can assume a system admin role. And when I say assume a system admin role, I will demonstrate how that works. You're really signing in through single sign-on, and then through your single sign-on, you have the ability to impersonate an admin. But the only way you can do it is if you have the password. Okay, so you could have lots of users who are in this SPED district administration security group, and none of them have the password, or maybe only one of them has the password for a particular reason, right? So just think of it that way. It's not all inclusive in that why everyone would need an admin password. All right, so there is something called the district administrator, and the role that is assigned to that person in PowerSchool SIS, or that group of people, they are mapped to what is called the SPED district administrator, okay? Now, beneath that, which is what I would consider to be the special programs system administrator security, those of you maybe who are going to be performing that function, there would be a security administrator system-wide. And notice that that security role is the SPED system administrator, okay? And once again, if you are coming in through single sign-on and you've been assigned this role, you have system-wide security. You can see all kiddos. You can see all documents. You can even manage membership, meaning that I can add individuals to different security groups just with this particular security group set of privileges. If I need to do more, if I need to go in and I need to monitor integration, if I need to set document behaviors, if I need to add a keyword value, I can assume the system admin role with a password. I have to have a password. Okay. The third group that is part of the special program system administration related security groups is the security administrator location-wide. And that might be an individual, maybe who's a lead teacher, maybe it's that individual at a building level who kind of does ad hoc support throughout the building, okay? They are considered a SPED school administrator. They would have location-wide access to all students. They would have full functionality to all document templates, and they also could move their own staff in and out of security groups. Now, I said that was the lead teacher. It could be the special education coordinator at that building. So, the names are generic. What's the most important as you're looking at these is to understand, first of all, what role they might be mapped to, and then, of course, what group it is placing them in. All right, so now I'm going to stop for a second, and we're going to go back over here to the security. Administration security. Come down to the special programs admin group. And I'm going to come down to this security administrators system one, because that is mapped to the SPED system administrator. And that would predominantly be, more than likely, most of you who are that lead in your districts for special programs, maybe that is you. Let's open this up and let's talk about properties and privileges. So now you can see I have my property and privileges. I have my area that shows me what templates this group can see. And then of course, here is where I would see anyone who's a member of this group. I'm going to click edit because I want you to see really what is contained in the properties and privileges. Notice that as I scroll down, there are so many properties and privileges. Is why we wanted to give you a baseline configuration to begin with. All right, starting at the top, you have the name of the security group that we gave you. You can see here, we have these different categories that we've placed them in, and in this particular one, we called it Special Programs Admin. The field beneath that is where it is mapped to the role that's in PowerSchool SIS. So this is saying anybody who has this role, when they log in, they're going to get popped into this group as a member. And then as we move down the properties and privileges, in each panel beneath it are the properties, they're actual privileges for that piece of functionality. So kind of starting at the top, we don't have curriculum, so therefore it's collapsed. Special access privileges. Special access privileges are privileges that are provided to users who can only see students that are either in their caseload or in their classes. So since I'm a security administrator, and this is kind of the overarching security group that has the most power, I don't have security to caseloads and classes, because when I log in, I can see everyone, okay? So here, you're not seeing any security privileges. If I were to go look for a teacher wouldn't have much of anything else except the ability to access their classes. There is full and complete rights to everything in the report library if you are a system administrator, including the capability to administer reports and assign security to reports. So when we have a working session that talks about how to administer report security, you're definitely going to want to send someone to that session that will be working with report security. All right, we're now under the system administration privileges. And because I said you were a system administrator, you have a lot of privileges. Even though you don't log in with that admin and admin password, you can manage staff security. You can't change the security group privileges, but you can place, add, and delete individuals out of that security group. You can log in, or using your login, you actually can go and see who is logged into special programs. You can even terminate people who are logged into special programs, and you can end lockouts. You can see the audit log. You can view all the configuration. You could translate document templates using this account, because we can actually have documents in different languages. You can send announcements, and you can send those red alert announcements. So you have the capability to manage all those broadcasts and announcements. Now, notice that as I open up a privilege and select from the drop-down, for my privileges, the choice that I'm making as I'm granting them is, do I want to grant them so they can have access to do this system-wide, or would it be location-wide? Okay. If it's set to NA, it means it's not accessible. It means I didn't give you that privilege. We don't use these two, so not to worry. The only thing you will see are these. Does this group have system-wide access, or is it location-wide access? Okay. Okay. So as a security administrator, this group, system-wide access. Now, this is the key security privilege, which allows a security group to, when they're logged in using single sign-on, using their own credentials, to be able to select from the administration menu a menu item that says assume system admin role. And when they select it, they will have to complete a dialog box that says, what are you doing? And they will have to provide the password. So they could be in this group, and if they don't have the password, still couldn't do it. All right, field level securities. Field level security is just that there are more than likely some fields that are in some of your profiles that may be flagged as sensitive. Right offhand, I don't know what fields they are. Typically, the kinds of fields that might be are, maybe Medicaid related kind of things. And it would just allow you to hide those fields if they're sensitive to specific user groups. All right, it is within the student profile and document privilege area that a user has, that there are the most privileges, okay? And this is the area that as you begin to set this up for users, it just seems like there's so much. But let's unpack this. This is all about students, the student data, and the student profiles. So view students. If this is set at system-wide, it means that when you search, you can see every student in the district. If you have location-wide security as part of your security group configuration, then you are seeing only the students enrolled in the building locations that your security gives you access to. And you could have access to more than one building, in which case you would be able to hop between those buildings and be able to view students. So it is by all of the students in the student table that are from your location. Typically, a normal user would never be able to add students, edit students, delete students, right? But you can, because you have the system administration role. Adding students, typically you would not add students into special programs, because that is something that is accommodated over on the PowerSchool SIS side. I mean, they're coming over through integration. The only time students typically would be added is that in a situation where you as a district provide services to maybe early intervention students and they are not enrolled in SIS. And in many cases, districts opt to go ahead and enroll them in SIS just because they want to manage them on the SIS side, because at some point in time, maybe they're going to matriculate up and stay within the district for services in K-12. So full functionality here, going all the way down to, we talked about student utilities, accessing documents. Accessing documents, creating and editing template documents only is giving you access to the document icon and the document library. So in other words, it opens that functionality. When I select a student, I can actually go to the document library and I have a menu item that says create edit. If I don't give this user any document templates, there won't be anything in the dropdown. All right, so just some additional functionality. Really, pretty much this user can do anything. Then we get down to view supplementary services, view special ed services. These are those child profiles, those supplemental profiles that I said really belong to the student profiles. Okay. And in these particular cases, they are all populated by data that is coming through data flow and the finalization of documents. So when users are granted access to these profiles, typically, almost always, they only have view access. You would not want a user, even though you might be the system administration person, to go in and assign special education services to a student that wasn't coming through the IEP. So in that particular case, you can see they're just set to view. So all of these are all those supplemental profiles. They're all just set to view. Yep, so all those are those profiles. Class privileges. Remember, I said that the classes are coming over from PowerSchool SIS. Those are your master schedule sections. They originate in PowerSchool SIS. So usually if you are providing access to see those classes, it's the same thing. Do you want to be able to see every class in the district or just in your location? As I said, this is the system administration account. It is set to system-wide and it's set to view. And that is because there's no reason you would want to edit this data over in special programs. It's coming from PowerSchool SIS. Its source is PowerSchool SIS. District profiles and privileges. There are some minimal rights here. The globals. You can see the globals. Using this particular profile, can you edit the globals? No. You would have to do what? If you needed to change the globals and this was your account, you'd have to assume the system admin role to change the globals. Location profiles. Those are all the Alabama locations. By default, they contain all the Alabama locations and districts, but you do have the right to view it and edit it. Your staff profiles, completely opened up, pretty much. I will just say this, and I'll say this multiple times. Your staff comes from PowerSchool SIS just like the students do through integration. If a new staff is joining your district, then their staff profile needs to integrate over into special programs through integration. The only time you would add an external staff record in special programs is if you wanted to provide access to special programs, maybe to a contractor or a related service provider who only doesn't work for your district. Maybe they have a caseload and they're never going to have a PowerSchool SIS account or even an Active Directory account in your district. Most districts, even for those types of individuals, will bring them in through the PowerSchool SIS side. There is a capability, however, to set up a staff profile and give them an external sign-in ID and password. Do not create a staff record in special programs if the user is coming in through PowerSchool SIS. It takes 24 hours for that user to replicate over, so you will need to be patient. I've had many users who will come over, go ahead and add the staff record here, thinking that they're not doing it correctly. And what happens is you now have duplicate records. You have the record that is over here that was manually created, and then you have the record in SIS that's trying to come over. It will bump into each other and they'll both get rejected. Last but not least on this panel is the general ed table. And if you have these privileges, it allows you to search and access all students in the general ed table and be able to select any student and import it into the student table. It is this right here. If I have that, that means I can import. I'm not really editing the general ed student. I'm importing the general ed student. Okay, now. A lot of properties and privileges. If I were to go down and look at the location-wide one, I can see, not even editing it, I can see what properties and privileges are associated with it just by looking at this front panel, okay, without even editing it. To make this easier though, hopefully easier, in your presentation, there is a matrix. Now, it is not every property and privilege or every privilege that you see over here, but it is an overview. The special education building administrator, it's mapped to the special education administrator. Location-wide, here's what that individual is able to do. Some key things: they can manage staff caseloads, they can import kids into the general table, and they have access to all the special education documents. So you will see that for each one of these categories, we will have an administrator, a teacher, and a viewer. Gifted, administrator. In this particular case, when we talk about 504s and RTIs, we have a system-wide administrator, the teacher, and the viewer. And of course, over here, it is going to tell you what they are allowed to do. The special program security group, the Power Schools SIS security role, what they can do. Now notice that at the teacher level, if you're an administrator, a coordinator, you've either probably got system-wide, location-wide. But when we start to move into the teacher categories, notice that if you are a 504 teacher, you can see the classes that you teach and a caseload. You can't see anyone else. So that means that for example, a special education teacher, they can see their students and the students that are on their caseload. So that means somebody is going to have to assign them their caseload. And that's the assumption, kind of that best practice that we've determined. Now, if in your district you say, you know what, we let our special education teachers go out and assign themselves to their own students. We give them a list, we sit them down, and they go in and they assign their own kids. In that case, that's a situation where it's not a problem. You would just go to the security group and you'd select this particular role, and then you'd modify the security in the special access panel to just say, edit my case manager caseload. Okay. Okay, so we have EL, we have RTI, and then last but not least, we have some non-specific security groups, kind of catch-alls. We have one that is really for kind of that principals, assistant principals, counselors, staff at a building level. And in this particular case, it means they could see all the kids in their building, and they can view and print any documents. Classroom teacher, access to the kids in their classes. And of course, the ability to view specific documents that are appropriate for a classroom teacher. gifted plan, 504 plan, IEP, view only. All right, so let me come back here because I want to pop over here. We talked about these properties and privileges, but now I'm going to go over to the document template area. And within the document template area, I'm going to kind of shrink my screen a little so you can kind of see it all. Up on top, select template category. And so up here, you can see it's telling me that I'm in the security administrators. Let's switch this. I want to go to here we go. The security administrators system-wide. Okay. Select template category. If I click this drop down, here are all of the document templates in the whole model. If I scroll all the way to the top and select summary, I see a summary of all the document template rights for this category, for this security group, okay? So when I say in the overview, you have access, full access to all document templates, that's what this would look like. Remember from our document template session, we know that we can view, create, edit. These are the editing capabilities within the document. These are the capabilities to change the status, print, so forth and so on. And notice that they're all set and all turned on. So while you could come in and refine these, for example, they're all opened up. Also notice that if I went to an individual document, which I can open it up and I can also see what I can do at the document level. Okay. I can see document-wide rights, and I also have the different sections of the document that I am able to access. Okay. So coming back up here, I can move to any particular document and see what those rights are, or I can move all the way back to the summary and of course see all my sea of black dots. When I am over here under the document template area, I also can very easily just change groups. So now I'm looking at the special education administrator. These are my folks at the building level. They have access to these documentation. So they've been given access to all of the special education document templates. And notice I can get a really good summary of what they're allowed to do. They can create, they can edit, they can review, they can set to final, they can print. If I needed to make a modification for this group, I could go to any document template. I could click edit. And I could make some editing changes. What does that do? That affects the whole group, right? But I'm just changing it for a single document. So within each of these groups, if I were to look at them, each of these groups has complete access to their set of document templates. We looked at special ed, they have the special ed documents. Gifted has the gifted documents. 504 has the 504 documents. All right. Now, I want to talk about PowerSchool SIS setups. We can see the basic setups over on the special program side. And now the next piece and part of this is, okay, what do I do on PowerSchool SIS to make sure that I have my users set up right? So a couple tips and tricks, of course, setting up security in PowerSchool SIS. is something that you learn about and you work with your SIS application specialists on that side for. I don't have access to a SIS environment that's set up like this, so I have some screenshots. Your application specialists have been walked through this process. I mean, this is part of the functionality in SIS, so they understand and know about this. So they are certainly there to advise you and assist you if you need help in office hours as well. But as you are setting a user up, a couple of things are really important. Okay, the first thing to understand is in order for a staff to integrate to special programs, to integrate it all, whether or not it's PowerSchool SIS role integration, but for it to actually receive a record in a staff profile, it has to have all of the active locations that are going to come over to PowerSchool SIS or come over to PowerSchool Special Programs set up in the school affiliations in the teacher and affiliations tab. Okay, that's an integration issue. So if a user is an administrative user and they don't sign in to PowerSchool Teacher and they only access the district office, you still should go over to the school affiliations, click active and add them to the district office, because that's how integration knows to send the record over to special programs. In addition, if a user has more than one location, and some people do, you might have related service providers who provide services to many locations, then all locations that they are active in would be added under the school affiliations in order for the integration to work. If a teacher is active in one building and then moves and takes an assignment in another building location, then you would disable the active flag at the school that they're leaving, add the new one, and turn it on. And it's that active, inactive status which is controlling the locations that that teacher is provided access to in special programs. Okay, so add them as active. If they leave, turn them off. We don't care about the staff type. Okay. When the staff are being added to security role in PowerSchool SIS, and as I said, it's just the standard process of setting up security in SIS, going to the security settings, search for the student, go to the security, search for the staff, navigate to security settings, and click edit to assign the role as appropriate for each building assignment. There will be a building assignment. There will be a role down here, and that is where the roles will be added. You're assigning the PowerSchool roles because there are security groups and there are roles. There's two different levels in PowerSchool SIS. It is the role that that will push them over to the special program side. If they are in more than one building, you have to provide a role in every building. It doesn't pass through to the separate buildings if a user has location-wide access and has multiple buildings. So you can see there are a security group that's assigned to a user. And then after you've assigned the user to a security group, over under the building, you have to add the role. Now, this is a good example of, as I said, you could layer roles. You might have a user that needs special ed and gifted. So the roles that you're applying to that particular user might be more than one role, because it's kind of modular. We're kind of layering them. If you need 504, then you get a 504 role. If you need gifted, you get a gifted role too. If you also do intervention, well, guess what? You get intervention too, okay? So that's the important thing about how these are going to get layered in. And if you have more than one building, each building location gets the appropriate roles. Okay. All right. Oops. Get me down to the right side. All right. So give you a breather on that for a few seconds as you're kind of processing that through. I want to say that this is not going to be the last conversation that we have with you, the application specialist team, about security. Okay. If you are the designated special program security system administrator for your site, there will be more discussions. We will be having deep dive discussions on security, on troubleshooting, on role integration. We'll have open office hours. Security is really, we try to package it and make it as easy and make it as default turnkey as we could, but we do understand that there will always be, those exceptions to every rule, right? And so we want to make sure that, we're there to facilitate and help you in that. And also, it is really a lot to wrap your head around in a 60-minute session. So just, you don't know what you don't know to ask me. So just be aware that lots more stuff coming around the bend on that, a lot of information. So we'll take a break from that for a second. And we'll talk a little bit about user sessions and audit log, because those are the other two options that are available under security. User sessions allows you, if you have access to user sessions, which you don't always have to have the admin capability to have. As I said, it's a system administration privilege. It allows you to see the users that are logged into the system. And so, for example, if I have, location-wide access only, I would only see the list of users logged in my location, right? And I would only be able to terminate users in my location. So that's why you might have somebody at a location-wide level who's doing support. And then again, you might have somebody at the centralized level. But as I said, this is one of those situations where if you have somebody who is went to lunch and was editing a document and they are locking everyone out, you could terminate that session. You can also just terminate the sessions for everybody if you wanted, because maybe you're doing some administrative work. So that's what happens in the session area. It is just a menu item, shows you everyone who's logged in. The audit log allows you to see what's going on and who's done what out in your system. Within the audit log itself, you will see that, and of course, I'm logged in as an admin. So notice that anything that I do logged in as an admin is highlighted in red, okay? Because I'm logged in as an admin. Gail's been out here as a consultant. Because of the credentials that we have, it's going to say what we've done in red. And that's the other thing to be aware of. If you're sharing or you're allowing another user to have access to the admin password because they have certain responsibilities as a system administrator, you are going to be able to see who has made the changes. And if they are doing it logged in as themselves and they're impersonating, you should be able to see user admin and who is the person that was impersonating, for example. Okay, so you're going to have that back-end knowledge where you can go in and audit it. Now, in the audit log, you'll see that I can select a date. I can go back certain dates. I can come back up here, select a filter, and actually be able to even search for a specific user ID or even by a particular student or a word phrase, right? So a name, an ID, a phrase, okay? So this allows you to, if you're searching on particular audit events, allows you to do that. Let's see if I can go back a few days. Okay, so here's an example. You can see that Gail was logged in. She accessed the IEP document for this particular person. Oh, she's still over here. She viewed the list report. Up here I am. I was over here. Nope, Gail was over here. She changed that security group. I see what she's doing testing. I was over here. I actually changed the security group to a different kind of property. So you could see for the user, everything they've actually done. And that is all available up here under the audits. All right, because we've been talking about security and because we have been talking about admin passwords, let's talk about the next steps here. As I said, every day when we are done with the session, I send the attendance log, and of course, all the folks that have attended, thank you for adding that into the QA. That all gets sent and logged and added into the information in your project plans. And we know those of you who attended. I know that they are in the process right now of working to identify through all of the different locations who is your identified special programs security system administrator. Who is that individual in your role that we should provide that temporary admin password to? And as they're doing that, so as part of that process, you will be receiving, if you are the special programs identified person in your district, which I think many of you are, you will be receiving an email that gives you some information. It will give you, whoever you are, whoever that person is, I'll tell you what's in the email. It will give you the credentials. And when I say credentials, just want to be really clear that we're all on the same page when we talk about things. It will give you the, and I'm going to change this to ALDEM. Okay. You will get an email and it'll have a URL. Now, I don't know, it may not have this part of the URL in it. Probably not. You'll get a URL and then it'll say school district ID. And this is going to be your district ID. Everybody's is different, right? So it's going to go to you because it's the external one. Just like I've been signing into AL Demo, which is the Alabama Demo, yours is going to be unique to, it's your district name. And that'll be in the email. And then, of course, we know that the account is going to be called admin. Just so you're aware of that, if the account is called admin, but this is the part you need right here, okay? They're going to send you that if you're the right person, and then some additional instructions and under a separate email, I believe, because For confidentiality purposes, you never put a URL and a, you know, and a password in the same thing. So they'll send you a temporary password. Okay. What you're going to do, and contained in this email are instructions. You would go directly to that URL. Here's that URL. You're going to type in the name that they sent you of your school district. That's your school district ID. You're going to type in the word admin. And you will type in the default password or the temporary password that they sent you. And you'll see an A up here. That means you're logged in as the security administrator, right? And you're going to know all about this because in order for you to get this, you will have spent the day with me, right? So these will all make sense. Okay. After you get this, this is what we want you to do. Remember, this is your confidential district information, and we want you to protect it and we want it to be secure. So you're going to come over here to administration. You're going to click security, go to the more button and reset your admin password. Now, this is important. It has requirements, right? It has to have so many characters. It has to have one uppercase, a number, and a punctuation mark, right? And of course, you know, lowercase as well. So you're going to give yourself a new password. It makes you type it twice. And then of course, it's going to ask you who you are. So the default, the temporary password, I keep saying default, sorry. The temporary password that you logged in as, you're going to enter it again. And there you go. And now you've changed your password. Now, the admin password has been reset. Then, just because, you're going to log out and test it. Okay, did I do this right? Here's the new password I just set. Now it's yours. And so you have your admin password. You know how to change it. And that is going to give you your credentials through the URL as an admin. And why this is important is because single sign-on that is coming over from PowerSchool SIS is something that is going to be turned on, you know, when you go into production. If single sign-on is turned on now, while y'all are doing security setups in PowerSchool SIS, you are opening up your entire special programs database to your end users. And you don't want that. We don't want that because you're going to be migrating. This is not when they're going to be using the system. They can't use the system yet because when we migrate data, which we're going to talk about when we come back, it is going to overwrite anything that a user might have done, right? Because we are pushing data into the system. So in order to protect the integrity of your data, it's important that access to your system be limited to only a very, 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 very small number of users that are part of your core team as we go through this implementation process, okay? So stay tuned. You will be receiving email communication about that. It should, if it doesn't come out today, it'll come out early next week. So just be aware that, as I said earlier today, they updated, they sent out a release and updated the release of the newest Alabama updates as we prepare for deployment and migration. And so as part of that process, because there are so many of you, they are pushing out different we're replicating security in the background, and that is just a very time constraining thing to do among so many districts. And so we want to wait until that process has run over the weekend. We want to come in on Monday, make sure all our security looks good before we kind of turn on the fire hose and let everybody out there. We don't want you to go out there and say, well, why don't I see what I think I should be seeing, right? So let us finish that upgrade of all the security over the weekend. And my guess is you'll start seeing those be sent out to you now, because they're actively getting my information from me, and they are going in and setting temporary passwords. So just be a little bit more patient with me. Okay. It is time for break. We have a little bit of time between now and when we start at 3:30. So I'm going to give you a little bit longer break. Check your emails, kind of reprocess everything we said in the past half hour. And when we come back, we are going to talk about the iNow sets data migration. Okay. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. We'll be back online in about 20 minutes or so.